Stay tuned. GrokTALK will be live in 2 minutes. Stay tuned. GrokTALK will be live in 30 seconds. We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GrokTALK.com. We are your feared, extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GrokTALK.com.
GrokTALK.
I could hear that while that was playing right through my headset. It was great. Welcome to GrokTALK. It is July 25th already.
Yes.
2015.
Ooh,
Holy
that's
loudness
loud.
you are. Let's try that again.
Loud, I be.
Welcome
yes.
to the show.
Yes.
We are in
Testing.
studio.
1, 2.
Hello. 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 We have Mike at the other end of the table. We have a couple guests today. Everybody's in studio. No phone calls, so you don't have to worry about any of that screwing around with the shh sound.
But what is the phone number if you want to call in?
I don't have it in front of me.
That would be 603-715-9689.
Again?
603-715-9689. And it will set off our Ed Lasky flasher.
That's right. And if you want to call, you can. We'll see how everything goes today. Our guests are
But
Keith.
its name isn't Anthony. It won't show its wiener.
We'll have to work on that. We don't have a wiener. Maybe we'll get... Oh, never mind. Keith Carlsen's joining us
We're
today
being hot dogs this morning.
to talk about the Health Care Compact. Michelle Levell will join us to talk about some vetoes and some good things about bills. We're going to talk about education bills. And probably mostly how Governor Hassan is the worst governor for parental rights. Well, we'll see that. And then Governor George Pataki is joining us in the studio to talk about why he's running for president.
And to tell us about some of the good stuff he did in New York, no doubt.
Yeah, I expect that we'll hear all about it, because what else has he got to run on? Anyway, but we left the first segment open. I didn't book it.
Really?
Yeah.
That hasn't happened in a long time.
We were going to have Jorge on, but he had a death in the family, and he had to be away, and he's like, I'm sorry, I have to beg out. I'm like, are you kidding me? I said, I appreciate you coming on the show once a month to do what you do. I said, if you have, that's way more important than this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
he's been first class every time he's been on. His insight into the educational bureaucracy and what goes on in towns and committees has been absolutely fabulous. Good research.
Yeah, I've known Jorge for 10 years, and I will say when we first started Granite Grok and Guilford Grok, and when Doug and I were involved in local government, he was a huge resource and mentor to us. A naturalized citizen, a prior U.S. Marine. He has kept that attitude, and he understands the true meaning of freedom, because where he came from, they didn't have it. And he laments that we are losing it. We are becoming like the place that his family left when he was young. And, you look
and
at...
Is that Cuba or one of the other...
South America.
Well,
I can't remember exactly which one.
Well, little pieces of South America go back and forth between occasional freedoms and more often total oppression.
Yeah. So why are we heading in that direction instead of staying atop of the freedom indexes?
Well, that's the natural order of mankind.
Yeah.
Solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short.
Correct. Very
the
well
Hobbesian Leviathan.
Correct.
And we've created one.
If you don't stand up, they'll just knock you down. Anyway, they'll come and take it, whatever it is. Doesn't matter if it's freedom, your stuff,
which is why
your money, your companies.
Which is why Molon Labe is the only response.
All right, here we go. So
we were talking about 100% of nothing, unless you got a whole bunch of other stuff you want to reel off first.
We can talk about anything you like. I think we'll touch on the Chris Sununu thing. We'll talk about what did the governor do this week that was stupid. It's got to be something. There's every week.
Oh, she actually tried to make amends for her budget.
That's right. She announced another budget with a bunch of taxes in it. We can talk about that.
Well, actually, she wanted to lower the taxes on businesses, but then exceedingly hike stuff on other stuff.
Well, wasn't that what she was willing to compromise on the business tax reduction that was requested, but only if we hiked a bunch of other taxes?
Well,
that's not really compromise.
No, it's not. It all comes down to this. Every dollar is sacred when it comes to government spending. That they cannot. We have a caller.
See what happens when you give out the number and you're not ready.
Hit line. Hit the pickup quick.
And good morning. This is GrokTALK.
Kimberly,
how are you?
I got her.
I'm good. How are you?
Hey,
good.
Kimberly.
Hold on.
Okay. How's it going?
Good. How's it going?
Good. So, wow. To what do we owe this pleasure?
Well, you wanted to know what stupid thing the governor did this week?
I did, yes. I did ask, so please.
And we have one of the premier observers of government stupidity on the line. Go ahead, Kimberly.
She won't allow the National Guard to defend themselves.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I even wrote about that.
Yeah. Many women who are actually trained in firearms aren't allowed to defend themselves while they're on the job. Of course, Governor Hassan has armed security while she's on the freaking job.
Yeah. Now, didn't she demand that local law enforcement take care of the National Guard recruiting centers? Did I see something like that yesterday, or am I off on a couple details?
Somebody sent a letter.
Yep.
Yeah.
We got an email about a letter that anonymous letter that said that they weren't going to do as we'd been requesting, and that the local police would be called if the guard needed a guard.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Which, of course, is like everywhere else. When seconds matter, the police are minutes away.
That helps. It's just another gun-free zone.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So she wants the guys who are actually trained in firearms to be defenseless, but if they need help, to call the guys with guns who are minutes away when seconds matter.
Yeah.
If I was in that kind of position, I'd just be armed anyway and say, you want to make a really bad show for recruiting? Tell the public why trained soldiers aren't allowed to be armed. Make it loud, make it clear. Go ahead. Cashier me out of the service.
It doesn't make any sense. It's bad enough she wants, she allows the continuation of discrimination and racism and gender bias against regular citizens from, getting a pistol license. But these people are trained. She actually had the opportunity to say, you know what? I want you guys to be able to protect yourselves. There is a threat. It may not be a direct threat on New Hampshire, but there is a threat out there. And there's been a few scenarios where terrorists have killed our recruiters at military centers, but she decided to just make them be unarmed.
Right. Did you read the other outrage from the Army bureaucracy?
Oh, the Army bureaucracy.
Well, that now that some armed citizens have helpfully showed up to stand or sit outside of recruiting centers as an obvious deterrent, the Army has said that you shall not engage with these people, not talk to them. You shall assume they are a threat and call the police.
Was that Odierno? Because that's one of the guys that.
No, it's not. I posted it. It came. I got it from The Truth About Guns. It's an actual order from the Pentagon stating to not trust the civilians that are trying to protect you. And the first thought on my mind, certainly when I read it and from what I've heard afterwards, is like, great, so the military is going to SWAT civilians. Yeah, this is going to work out well.
With what? They aren't armed.
No, they're going to call the police SWAT teams to SWAT the innocent civilians who are illegally armed outside.
I'm getting this large picture view. Like, yesterday I was sitting around thinking about Planned Murderhood and Chris Sununu, and it occurred to me to ask the question, what would it take to get him to defund Planned Parenthood, which then led to my screed, which was posted and was received very well. So now I'm thinking about this. Why would Democrats, just as an example, say, want people to think that recruiting centers were dangerous places to go to keep people from joining?
Yeah.
Right? If you
thought
allow
your life
them
was at risk by being publicly on display inside the glass front of a recruiting center,
it will reduce
you're not going to
recruiting.
go.
People are going to not join because they think they might have a shot at being gunned down because nobody's armed. I think that's what they're doing.
Well, it's not just that. Think about it. They're by not allowing our military to arm themselves when they're at their job, and this isn't just recruiting centers. They are saying, the government is saying, yeah, we just don't trust these guys. We don't trust these guys to have firearms while they're working, even though we train them. So either the training is really bad, or they're saying they don't trust the military, their own guys.
Well, let me.
Have they always been disarmed? I mean, is this standing?
No,
George,
1992.
George H.W. Bush was the one who put the order out, and I think nowadays they're more intent on not causing a PR kerfuffle when there's an accidental discharge by one of these folks than anything else. But also remember that our military is controlled by our civilian administration. Our commander-in-chief is always a civilian. He hates guns, and frankly, in my opinion, he hates the military. So he gets a twofer. If you listen closely, Odierno, General Odierno, who was the Joint Chiefs of Staff chairman.
Joint Chief of Ass.
Well, I'm not going there.
I just did.
Yeah, we can always count on you, Kimberly. But, he has been very good about towing No.
Yeah.
I'm talking.
Sorry.
Raise your eyes, see who's talking.
Hang on. I'll turn his mic off. Go ahead.
He's been very good about parroting the presidential line on things. We know that Valerie Jarrett's making the puppet mouth move a lot of times too. But now that he's retiring, you notice how outspoken he's become on the situation in Iraq. It's a very unpresidential line of thought that's coming out. And I have the feeling that that directive came out not from the chief of staffs or the service, the heads of each service branch, but I think this was a presidential command and that was kind of whispered through. Do this. Let them continue to do this, and you'll be the next one sacked, because we've seen a lot of general officers and flag officers get the boot for the tiniest of little things. They want nothing but toadies up at the top of the brass.
Of course. But, I get that. But there comes a point in time where you stand up based on principle, right?
They should.
And because I wrote about Odierno recently, because he pushed this out there as well. And yeah, I agree, he's probably just puppeting Obama, but he still has his own opinion. You know what I mean? He still has punch when it comes to saying certain things. I mean, I get he doesn't want to get fired, so then he wouldn't lose his pension though, right?
He might.
I don't know.
I don't know how that
the
works.
guy with the phone and a pen pretty much feels like he can do whatever he wants, so you never know.
Yeah,
what goes
pretty
on.
much. You're right. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, he might just say, look, maybe you retire and you get your pension, but then the IRS comes to your house and the FBI comes to your house and the IRS comes to your house and the blah, blah, blah.
Right,
blah,
right. Or we make it difficult for you to get your retirement.
In a proper tyranny, that's the way things work, and that's what's going on.
It's very
and that's
close
the thing
to
we
that.
don't know. Right, that's the thing. We don't really know back end of, or the background of
Well,
what's
it's
really
Chicago
going on.
politics, so we know that.
Right.
Well, yeah, we know that.
Well, there's a couple of things you said that were pretty interesting. I mean, you said chiefs of ass, and I immediately thought tailhook. But beside that, beside that, the bigger point that you're making, which is really important, is they're inculcating this lack of trust in our soldiers anywhere in the United States, on their bases, in their homes, in their recruiting centers. These folks shall not be armed.
After they serve.
They're
yeah,
dangerous
absolutely.
loose cannons that we shove overseas to shoot those other guys, but we don't trust them to be safe anywhere at home with guns. And as veterans, they then try to find excuses to disarm them on the grounds of them being unstable or whatever. Meanwhile, they're arming every other government agency. So what you're effectively doing is you're disarming the well-trained, moral, good guys that you spent so much time bringing to that state, and arming a bunch of petty little thugs belonging to all sorts of government bureaucracies across the land. So you're still creating that standing army, but you're disarming the one group that might be able to stand up to them.
Well, exactly. And what is that saying? What is the government saying to our enemies by saying that they're not even going to let our guys be armed on where they work?
Hey, watch out for that Department of Education, though. They're going to get you. They're armed to the teeth. Hey, Kimberly, stay on the line. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
Hey there, GrokTALK. Check us out on iHeart, Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes, and TuneIn. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, YouTube, and Ustream. And please check us out at patreon.com/GrokTALK. Make a donation, help support the program.
Yes, we've got some big technology stuff we're going to have to pay for as this stuff starts to age and die.
Right, and we need new young writers as we start to age and die. Hey, Kimberly.
Wait a minute. Let's not let this be a foretelling.
No, well, we are aging.
Yeah, but...
Hey.
I said, I didn't mean you. You're not in the studio. I'm sorry. You're ageless.
No.
Anyway.
I'm never growing up, so it doesn't matter.
That's
Well,
good.
that's different.
That's different
You
from
can grow
aging,
old
yeah.
versus growing up.
Yeah.
Face it, one of the criteria I use for asking writers to write at Granite Rock is that none of us have ever grown up. We just all get gray hair.
Except
I
for
will
Kimberly.
never have gray hair
Except
either,
for
so how you
Kimberly.
like that one?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say what I shouldn't.
All right, we were talking about...
I know what we were talking about, but I really want to talk about Kristen Nunu and Planned Parenthood. Can we talk about that?
Oh,
or do we
I
the
have
other topic?
absolutely no objection to
Yeah,
that topic
we
whatsoever.
already started that in the pre-show where I kind of let loose a couple of amidship blasts.
Yeah,
but feel free to join.
I seem to recall having some thoughts on that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Even like I don't have thoughts on pretty much everything. First of all, he's my executive counselor. Second of all, how can this guy be undecided about whether or not to fund Planned Parenthood, given, and I'm not just talking about these latest videos, because these latest videos are just the straw that is going to break the camel's back, because Planned Parenthood has long been a despicable and vile organization. Long. Their inception was despicable and vile. They started so they could cull the less desirable races and the less desirables, like thanks to racist Margaret Sanger and her eugenicist friends. That alone should be enough for anyone not want to fund them. And let me just tell you, I just wrote something yesterday. John Boehner, decided that he's not going to make a decision on Planned Parenthood yet because he needs to have all the facts. How many more facts do you need, you jerk? Long before these videos came out, this organization has always been a vile and disgusting organization. And I'm not even talking about abortion. Forget abortion. This isn't pro-choice or pro-life. They are a despicable organization, period.
And let's also be clear, they get plenty of funding from other sources. In fact, now that the situation has reached pretty much ultimate outrage, there are lists circulating in email of all the companies that you might be doing business with that donate to Planned Parenthood. And it's a long, long list. These folks get plenty of money. They do not need our tax dollars.
Actually, Steve put up the list of nonprofits they give, and now some of them are dropping off. I posted the list of for-profit companies last night, and now a number of those companies are saying, don't put our names on your list. They're starting to drop out. Finally, the right has learned how to do what the left has done for years.
I am very proud of the right, I have to say. I was just thinking about it yesterday. I'm like a mother hen. I'm so proud. They learned how to use the Lynch style tactics, and they're doing such a great job.
It's not just for the left anymore. And you know something? It's a case where part of my pre-show rant was, and the theme of a lot of my posts lately on Granite Grok is, why are we voting for Republicans to be high NHGOP officials, elected officials, when they don't represent the platform? We see Steve Dupree giving to Planned Parenthood Action Fund, whose main goal now is to oust Senator Kelly Ayotte, which I would rather see somebody replace her, but for other completely different reasons. He celebrates the gay marriage decision of the Supreme Court by flashing the lights on his new tall building in the center of town here in Concord.
That was his building?
That was his building, flashing the gay rainbow lights. We've got Juliana Bergeron, who put in her name on the amicus brief to the gay marriage kerfuffle at the Supreme Court. I mean, we could go on and on and on of why are all of these high-ranking folks not listening to the NHGOP platform? I mean, why do we do this to ourselves?
Well, why bother having the platform if people aren't going to follow it?
Well, there's a lot of establishment Republicans who would probably love to be able to get rid of it.
Exactly. And, when us conservatives say, all we're trying to do here is help you guys out by electing conservative candidates who will actually hew closely to the platform, they don't want any part of it. They'd rather give us the wusses that will support maybe half the platform on a good day.
Well, and that's one of the problems, and I was talking about someone with this recently. People go into the voting booth, and if you're a Republican, you just assume, and I'm assuming this because I've always been an independent, you just assume that the R that's in the, on the ballot that you're voting for does follow the platform or is the type of Republican that they're supposed to be, less government, lower taxes, blah, blah, blah. But that's not what's happening, and that's why voters need to pay attention and know what's going on, because they're voting the same morons in that don't vote how they're supposed to, or don't represent the platform, or don't represent the less government, lower taxes, etc.
Like the moron they celebrated at a big dinner on Thursday night?
Which one was that?
Which moron? I forget.
Morrison, I think.
Morris. Oh, Chuck Morris, yes.
Oh, yes, the person who helped to implement Obamacare's Medicaid expansion.
Yeah. And gas tax expansion and all sorts of things that these guys vote for because they just don't read the damn party platform or don't care.
Yeah, by the way, I did put up a post last night that I got from the House of Arasthenes titled, "This One's for You, Radmod," who's been saying constantly in his comments at Granite Grok that, up at the very top, somewhat sight unseen, they're all big one party anyways. And it would be an interesting read for anybody to get a little bit deeper understanding of what it is that we're railing against, where, the Republican Party at the top oftentimes is nothing more than the junior Democrats, because, frankly, they're pushing forward a lot of the Democrat policies. Forget what they say, Kimberly. We can disregard to only watch their actions and their results, and let's bring the pain to them.
It's well, that's my favorite part. Come on.
Yes, says the person who is the most active conservative Twitterer here in New Hampshire. And you just have fun doing this.
It started out as a hobby, and it's just one of my favorite things to do. So many stupid people say stupid things on Twitter, or they just say outright lie. And the problem is a regular, ordinary voter or a regular person who's watching it might think, oh, my gosh, that's horrible. But the person's lying, like O'Malley, who I now call O'Moron, saying that there's been 204 mass shootings in 2015, and there's only 204 days. They're finally, the left is finally acknowledging gang violence, only they're calling it mass shootings instead.
Oh, and by the way, most of those took place in his city, and the rest took place in Rahm Emanuel's city.
Yeah, I reminded him, he said, gun control, blah, 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 and I said, really? That's why Maryland is one of the top 10 most dangerous states in the country? Your gun control really worked out well, didn't it?
Well, they just blame it on us lax people. That our lax state laws, according to all the anti-gunners, that say, well, all of your guns are coming our way. And it's like, well, yeah.
I've already proven that's not true, though.
Yeah, well,
I've proven.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's true, and I'd ask you to post it again. But here we are. It's always a race between us and Vermont to be which state is the safest one with basically no gun laws at all.
Well, let me tell you something. There's an FBI does trace reports on guns that are involved in crimes, and some jerk from Massachusetts used to post on New Hampshire politics and Twitter and say, your guns, we get guns in our state because of you. So I looked it up. It's not true. The majority of illegal guns in Massachusetts come from Massachusetts. Gun control hell, they come from there.
Yeah.
And I have the proof on that from the FBI trace data.
Oh, go ahead and post it up again.
I will, because they do it. They're a year behind, but they do it every year. They post it, and the majority of illegal guns come from Massachusetts, in Massachusetts.
Yep, and I just love what who is the priest in Chicago who is BFFs with Obama? Who is he?
Flagler?
Yeah,
he Jeremiah Wright.
Yeah, he and a few others are now suing suburban towns of Chicago for disparate results or disparate outcomes because the black neighborhoods in Chicago are killing themselves at far higher rates than what these suburban towns are. It's like, this is the new HUD rule that's going to federalize the zoning laws, which I proudly say we've been talking about this for years, and they called us tinfoil hatters for saying so, and now the Sustainable Communities Initiative is coming to the house next door to you.
And in one particular case, the southern Connecticut town of Westchester, or is that actually
New York?
That's New York. No, eastern New York. Sorry, it's right on the edge, where one of the state legislators went to the gates of Clinton's house and said, basically, this stuff's coming to your neighborhood. What do you think about it? Of course, she didn't come out to answer, but he did a presser right outside. And he got elected basically on the grounds that people are fed up with the government trying to move underprivileged people into their nice, expensive neighborhoods. Earn your way in, damn it.
Guys, I just wrote that there's a Seattle Advisory Council that came up with ideas, and it was a leaked document that the Seattle Times posted on. They wanted to end single-family zoning in Seattle because they wanted to have, because it's not
efficient
equality, it's not equity. They want, because single-family home zoning is exclusionary and racist.
Don't let them vote on it.
Well, the problem is HUD's bribing a lot of the local zoning folks. We see it in the Twin Cities in Minneapolis and St. Paul. We're seeing this in San Diego. They've tried to do it here in New Hampshire by stealth with the 9 regional planning commissions. Yeah, it's going on all over the place. And now with the Supreme Court judgment that disparate outcome strategy can be used everywhere, this is what's going to ignite it everywhere. I mean, your example, Mike, of Rob Astoria, the county commissioner in Westchester, saying exactly that, saying, okay, folks, do you consider yourselves racist just because you've earned your way into this,
And by the way, black people earn their way in too.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, this is the social engineering of the socialism. Now that he's a lame duck, he's got nothing to lose, they're going full roar, and this is what happens when the Republicans of all parties have allowed the Leviathan government to get so large they can do whatever they want without the legislature, and I've been told to shut up.
You have, and I already turned Mike's mic off because he's going to talk anyway. I wanted to let you know, by the way, I'm a big fan of that whole laboratories thing. Let somebody have a little experience with this, and we'll all watch. We'll point cameras and microphones and go, oh, look, that sucks. We're not going to do that.
But they've already experimented with this. I wrote about the Seattle story, and I looked at comments on the story, and this woman wrote on it, and she goes, they've already tried this in Romania. They did the same thing. They bulldozed private homes and built high-rise tenements, and they were crowded, shoddy, experienced frequent outages, broken elevators, blah, 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 all kinds of things.
All right, I got to cut you off because we're going to go to the break. Next segment, Keith Carlsen's joining us to talk about the healthcare compact. Please stick around. We will be right back.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
GrokTALK.
Welcome back to GrokTALK. Turn down this microphone, turn this microphone up. It is July 25th. Almost
All day.
August. Getting near the end of summer, ladies and gentlemen. Please take some time to check us out on iHeart, Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes, and TuneIn. We'd like you to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. We have hundreds and thousands of videos on YouTube. Go to Granite Grok on YouTube. We're also on Ustream, which you may be watching this program on at this very moment. But we're going to move forward. I want to thank Kimberly Morin, who may still be there. I don't know. Are you still there, Kimberly?
I'm still here.
All right. You hang on. We have Keith Carlsen in the room. He is here to discuss the Health Care Compact. We did have somebody in to talk about this a year or two ago.
Yes.
And I can't remember. Well, let's talk about it again. Anyway, welcome to the show. First of all, let me turn your microphone up. Thank you. Let's try that.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, that's not you. Is that you?
Thank you for having me on the show.
I keep adjusting. There he is. We changed something again. I don't know what it is. They're not in the right order anymore. I got to number them. I got to number the headset, Skip. We got dots, right? Let's number these puppies. Anyway.
That's what I brought them in for.
Yeah, that's what the dots are for. So, welcome to the show. Try that again.
Thank you. I've been a fan of Granite Grok for years, so it's an honor to be on your show.
Okay, we've been a fan of healthcare for years, and we have a brief understanding of the healthcare compact, but it's not a topic that comes up a lot, even though healthcare does. I understand what the mission is, but why don't you just explain it for our listeners, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. So the healthcare compact would allow the states to actually take control of healthcare policy. It's an interstate compact, which is an agreement among two or more states. It's part of the Constitution, Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, the Compact Clause. And so it's an agreement among two or more states. And sometimes the federal government also gets involved when the compact actually tells the government what to do. So in this particular case, it will tell Congress to fund the same money that's funding health care, the Medicaid money, the Medicare money, bring it to the states, but enable the states to look at all of the there's thousands of pages of federal health care law, all these different ordinances, regulations, code. It would allow the states to look at that, figure out what works for the unique population of that state, and if something doesn't work or 500 pages don't work, the state would be able to remove those restrictions. So it's a block grant with no strings attached. And then the third thing is because state reps aren't, or state senators sometimes even, aren't experts on every issue, it would create a non-binding advisory commission. And you guys were actually talking about laboratories earlier. So it would allow 50 laboratories of democracy or republicanism to be in action. The 50 different states could all have their own healthcare issues, figure out what works for them, and this commission would figure out what's working in various states, figure out ways to make it more affordable, more accountable, and improve services. And if something worked in, let's say something worked in Florida, we could try that in New Hampshire, or if something failed completely in California, we would know not to try
like
that
gun
approach.
Control. Right.
Exactly.
All right. Yeah, that's a cool idea. Now, you sent me a link to a letter from the Secretary of State of Kansas, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Chris Kobach. Dear Republican Member of Congress, dated July 9th, 2015. And now, is Kobach like one of the leading lights of this whole project, or?
He's the Secretary of State of Kansas. He thinks that as a Secretary of State, he has to promote the positive legislation that his state passes, and he believes this is the only solution to fixing Obamacare or going around Obamacare while President Obama is still our president. So he's very determined to encourage people to pass this.
Well, the Founding Fathers plainly did not intend for the federal government to have any authority over health care or health insurance, as James Madison's Federalist 45 makes clear. Nevertheless, the Supreme Court has twice found a way to make it possible, first by distorting the taxing power of Article 1, Section 8, then by implausibly reading exchange established by a state to mean exchange not established by a state. These rulings left many who cherish the sovereign authority of states wondering if there was any way left for the states to avoid the overreaching federal mandates and regulations of Obamacare. Fortunately, there is. We'll put this up. I have
read the last line that's underlined on that, though.
It is important to note that Compact Clause does not require the president's signature. Only Congress need approve.
Very well timed, given the particular balance of power between Congress and the president and the political parties.
We need a few more state compacts. I seem to remember, actually this is Kansas, but I noticed that Oklahoma was on the list. Weren't these states parties to the initial lawsuits that basically said you can't establish subsidies in our states and penalize our employers? Only we can do that as states.
Some of the states
basically said if we don't have a state exchange, the IRS can't come in and intrude on our businesses.
Some of the states were. That's not really directly related to this. But if you turn to the second page, there's 9 states that have already signed this compact. And it's been discussed in the majority of states, including New Hampshire. The Josiah Bartlett Center wrote positive things about it in 2012. It passed the New Hampshire House. Unfortunately, typically with a bill, it doesn't usually pass the first time it's proposed. But I assume it will come back in New Hampshire, and it's being discussed in Vermont and Montana and Ohio and states across the nation right now.
I noticed that Senator Kelly Ayotte's not on this list.
Yeah, this just went to
surprise.
This just went to the 94 representatives and senators that live in the 9 states
that have already
passed the healthcare compact.
Okay.
And
well,
the thing about the compacts are, a state doesn't have to pass them initially. So let's say the healthcare compact became federal law 3 years from now. New Hampshire could join then, or join and then withdraw. A state can join and withdraw a compact at any time. So it's not required for, this. New Hampshire hasn't missed the boat, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, I have a question, and this is really for the other two Goxes. And Kimberly, you're on the phone still, right?
I am. I'm listening because I've been wanting to talk to Keith about this, so this is great.
Okay, that last line that Steve wrote about, that it only takes Congress to approve and not the president. How many of us really do believe that Kelly Ayotte would vote for this and permit New Hampshire to participate in one. Here in studio, raise your hand.
Who do I think? Do I think?
So you think Kelly Ayotte would vote for it?
Waiting. I'm clarifying the question. You're asking if I think she will or won't.
She will or not.
No.
She won't.
No.
She won't. Kimberly,
My hands down.
your hands down. And I'm not asking you because you get yourself in trouble. See, we get to say things and do things that other people can't. So okay. So much for that. All right. So continue, sir.
Well, right now, actually, Vermont. Vermont has 3 political parties, believe it or not. There's the Progressive Party, the Democratic
Socialist.
Party, and then there's a few Republicans there. And there's a tripartisan bill right now that's sponsored in Vermont. Because not only does this, it doesn't really, it's not a direct attack on Obamacare. Some people might look at it as that, but it enables the states to actually look at health care. And so right now, under the current federal healthcare system, there's a couple commissions that are people that are appointed bureaucrats, and they control healthcare federal policy, which controls it for the entire nation. This would allow the states to control it, so the legislators of the states would be in charge. So in Vermont, every legislator, the governor's elected every 2 years. So actually local officials that people shop at, well, they don't have Market Basket in Vermont, but they have Shaw's and Price Chopper. So people that go to Price Chopper in Burlington, they would see their local state rep or state senator, and they could actually interact with them. And if the great thing about it is you can fire a state senator or a state representative at least. And in D.C., these bureaucrats, we didn't elect them. We don't appoint them. We can't fire them. It's all people in D.C. that can't even pronounce the name of our capital or our rivers or our mountains. So these people have never been in New Hampshire.
Concord, New Hampshire.
Yeah, but it kind of scares me that Vermont is going for this because they tried single payer.
Yes.
So what is that kind of telling me?
It tells us that they want the freedom to put single payer in place without having to deal with the federal government.
Yeah, but it also means that they may want to leech off of the other states, because when they looked at this, it was going to cost like 3 times the state budget and raise taxes 75% on everybody.
With the compact, they'd only get their block grant, and they'd have to make do.
Yeah, and really that's the only this laboratory of democracy decided we'd be taxing ourselves to death and backed off of it. But man, they are so upset that their citizens don't have enough money from which to spend it on the citizens. You can't make this stuff up. Keith.
So the federal healthcare policy was messed up even before Obamacare because it was centralized. But with Obamacare, it created all these taxes, and some of them haven't even hit us. There's the Cadillac tax that some people are talking about. The mayor of Manchester says they're going to have to increase property taxes by $6 million a year, just in Manchester. And so this is going to hit the entire nation. But again, you can actually opt out of any and all federal health care regulations.
Calm down, Skip.
Oh, this is what drives me crazy.
So
why is it that government always has to get more because it's going to cost government more? Why don't they just take the razor to their own neck and say, enough, we can't do this. Sorry, employees, you can't have this Cadillac health plan or anything else that keeps costing so much money. Why aren't we when I was in government, my motto was the rate of government spending should never rise above that of the rate of income rise of ordinary citizens. Where are these numbskulls Republicans, because that's what Gatsis is, and he wants to be still mayor. Why don't they think of this thing? This would be an obvious winner.
Because they're afraid of the union. The biggest contracts and expenses in every municipality in this state and every state across the country are union contracts.
Let them strike.
And union pensions. And that gets me back to my 100% and nothing that I was going on about in the pre-show, which is, the unions are going to stick out to keep their pensions, keep their benefits under all kinds of threat and duress, and they'll swing the elections, except at some point the town, the state, the county is going to go bankrupt, and they'll have 100% of their guaranteed pension, but there'll be no money in the pot to pay it, and they're going to get 100% of nothing. They don't understand they're better off getting, say, 90% and actually keeping it, or getting a 401k plan and actually keeping it. They want the taxpayers to be on the hook until the taxpayers themselves go bankrupt.
Keith.
I want to ask Keith a question.
Go ahead.
Keith, if states are going to be controlling this, are they getting federal money, or, which is basically their own money, or are they doing this just internally in the state and figuring it out?
The federal money they're currently given with tens of thousands of pages of strings attached, they would be given without any of the strings. And also, it wouldn't be exactly the exact amount of money. It's based on 2010 figures, and then it's inflation is figured in, and then population. So it would be slightly less probably than they're getting now, because for example, the medical devices tax wouldn't be happening, and all these taxes wouldn't be happening that Obamacare creates. But the states would actually be able to look at the money, put it where it's needed, not where some bureaucrat that's never been to Iowa or Idaho thinks they should put their money, or, of course, New Hampshire.
Okay, Keith, I got a question for you. Stockton, California. Multiple towns and cities in California have gone bankrupt, and it leads on to what Mike was alluding to, in that these pension costs for the salaries, which sometimes are in excess of their actual salaries, the health care costs and everything else, the property taxes are going way more towards the unionistas than it is for providing services like we saw in Detroit, and everything else was going bad. How could you do this and not have it seen as being a bailout for those types of towns that have willfully misspent all of their money following the blue social model for decades?
It would give the state of California, the people in charge of it, the people in charge of the state of New Hampshire, which, by the way, you could be one of if you ran for state rep. Anyway,
I wish I could. Trust
it would give
me.
those people the flexibility, the innovation, the accountability to actually make changes. And I don't really see the direct correlation of how it's a bailout. Like, if New Hampshire gets this, I don't see how New Hampshire would just really use it to help the unions. They would use it to help the people of New Hampshire, and the House and the Senate would have the debate, and they would spend the money towards the people the way they wanted. And if they did do it the wrong way, they would be kicked out of office, which is something that this actually brings back to the healthcare debate. Because right now we can say, well, our congressman this, our congressman that, but our congressmen have no authority to change healthcare policy under the current system.
But I'm looking at the state of California, which is just about as bankrupt as you can be other than Illinois. And you look at these towns, and they've run themselves into the ground. Now all of a sudden they get this massive amount of money coming in from the federals.
It's the same money.
Well, it's the states, but the states are going to they're going to bail out the towns because...
Well, maybe they aren't.
But, yeah,
probably.
It's the same money with no strings. That's there's no new bailout. It's the same bailout they've been getting.
But it's still a pot of money coming in.
It doesn't change that problem, though. It's the same problem. The towns are still going to go bankrupt, and it's state policy that will have to affect how that money is distributed. And if they decide, you're a bunch of incompetent bastards, we're not giving you a dime, they can decide that at the state level, not at the federal level. And that's where we're going to go on a break, and we'll be right back. So everybody stay tuned.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now, at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
It's GrokTALK, and we're talking, and we're grokking, and Michelle Levell's joined us. I gotta find your microphone, Michelle. Is that you?
Is that me?
It sounds like you. Sounds a lot like you, actually.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Actually, Michelle, I need you to move closer to Keith.
Hello.
Be nice.
We're friends.
You'll be on camera.
Michelle will be joining us for the next segment. Yeah, she's joining us now, of course, but we'll be talking about some education bills.
Okay, Mike.
After that, we'll have Governor George Pataki here.
If we can't ham it up, what are we here for?
All right. We were talking about California, which, who cares? Let them drown on their own.
We
I'm
were
not
talking about California Dreaming last week, and that was a good discussion.
It was. All right. So anyway, where were we going? Oh, you were going on about California.
All I was, but I'll pass.
Okay, so we're done with
Next
California.
point, Mr. Oh, Kimberly.
Wait, Kimberly, go ahead.
Wait, no, I have a... I'm waving to you guys, but you can't see me.
Hi. Hi, you're waving. I thought I felt a breeze. I wasn't sure where that was coming from.
No, that was just me bloviating. One of the things with Medicaid expansion that I've looked into is, we have regular Medicaid, we have Medicaid expansion. What's going to happen, and what people don't realize who put it into place, is that eventually obviously the money runs out, but the real people who need help that are on Medicaid, right, the actual people who supposedly need our help, are going to get pushed to the back of the line, because New Hampshire is still going to get more money for the people on Obamacare's Medicaid expansion than they are for the people on regular Medicaid, the actual people who supposedly really need it. So, because as we all know, Obamacare's Medicaid expansion covered people who already previously had health insurance, but they just made it so now they're government dependent. So the people who actually could never afford health insurance, or maybe they're disabled, or they actually needed the help, are going to be pushed to the back of the bus, because the state isn't going to get as much funding for them as they will for the Obamacare Medicaid expansion people.
A lot of existing programs were going to get screwed, and everybody knew that. I actually wrote an article for Watchdog that'll get published Monday on this topic regarding New Hampshire, not specifically what you said, but there's so many things wrong with this. I mean, and the Republicans in the Senate are still saying they will support an expansion past 2016, and I wrote about it this morning. New Hampshire is a donor state. I think we all agree that everybody says that. Ask anyone in the political class, they'll tell you New Hampshire pays more in federal taxes than it gets back. So they're running around saying, well, the federal government's paying 100%, and then after 2016 they're going to pay 95%. Of what? Of donor state money, which means all the other states are still going to get more of our money. They're just going to get more and more of our money. So this is the stupidest thing. It's not free, which you were writing about yesterday or the day before.
Yep.
When one of these people walks up to you and says, enjoy your free Medicaid expansion, isn't New Hampshire a donor state?
Yeah.
Isn't it? I mean, so if we're a donor state and this is federal money, that means we're getting even less back? Is that your argument?
No, they want us to all consider that, the federal tax, this is money coming in from outside the state. And to Jeb Bradley's face, I said, what, are we not federal taxpayers, everybody in this room? So how can you sit there as an individual? I'm looking at this as an individual taxpayer. I've got my local taxes, and then on top of that, I've got my county taxes, then I got my state taxes, and then I've got the federal taxes. Stop lying. He got very unhappy with me. And I just don't understand why that this simple concept was so much of an affront to Jeb Bradley.
Yeah, where's this free money coming from?
Yeah. And what's one of the things that we've been hearing about for the last couple of cycles? We have to fix our roads and bridges. We have to fix our roads and bridges. We have to fix our roads and bridges. Well... But
they don't fix them, and they steal the funds.
Yeah, and then they spend it on other stuff, Kimberly. What is wrong with me? Am I such a simpleton with these simple ideas? If you're going to rail about something, how about fixing them first? Take the political will and fix them first? I'm going on rants today.
That's because they're too busy wasting money on other things and crony capitalism, and they're not paying attention to not being responsible like we are with our own budget. And you're right about the federal funds. That drives me insane when people say, it's federal funds. Yeah, who do you think pays that, you morons? We do.
Exactly, Kimberly. And, it's all our money. And so the healthcare compact, we're just looking at one policy, healthcare. But if we can make 50 laboratories of democracy, if we can make healthcare more efficient and affordable, then we can save money in that one area, and that will put less pressure on the federal budget and then also the state budgets. And so I talk to state legislators all the time, and they're always telling me, we all know in New Hampshire right now there's obviously a budget issue. But if they had another $50 million that showed up, because of efficiencies based on several years of progress through 50 states doing different things, that would be great for everybody.
Yeah, and I mean, while California is paying for sexual reassignment surgery for inmates, New Hampshire's paving a road.
Well, no, that's they've been long to talk about this, Steve, about how if they would give they give block grants to states. I forget what it is for welfare or Medicaid. If they let the states make the decisions, it would be far more efficient. I think they do it for welfare now, and they should do it for Medicaid, but they don't. And that's why Medicaid is such a disaster and a mess and one of the worst health care insurances, quote unquote, in the entire country, because the feds run it and they don't let the states make the decisions based on the state needs.
Okay, so as I see it, Kimberly and folks, there's a problem with this whole idea of block grants. The problem is, once the government's got its hands on the money, the government and the bureaucrats are going to try and decide what they, and therefore we, will do with it. So we're assuming here with this healthcare compact, it's legal and constitutional for the states to make a compact amongst each others. For example, all the states could get together and allow concealed carry across state borders if they chose to. The place where I see this breaking down, and where Keith can correct me, the states can agree amongst themselves that they're going to experiment with healthcare, and they're going to use the block grants to experiment within their borders. But what if the government says, well, we're not going to give you a block grant. You do it our way or you don't get the money.
So there's an issue with that. It's called House Joint Resolution 50. It's in Congress right now. It's being debated. Representative Doug Collins of Georgia submitted it. So our goal is to get this bill passed at some point. And even though the Kansas Secretary of State suggests accurately that the president doesn't have to pass this, we're actually trying to talk to all of the Republican presidential candidates about this, thinking that there's a good chance one of them will be the next president, just to make sure they're on the same page, they're not actually opposed to the idea. I know a couple of the candidates, like one's from South Carolina, one's from Texas, actually two from Texas, and those states have already passed this. So there's probably not going to be much opposition to them, but we're just trying to inform all of the candidates about it, let them know about the bill, let them know about the idea, how it is constitutional. I actually brought a constitution with me in case I ever see a presidential candidate. I always have a constitution on me.
We're going to have one here in just a little while, too. Governor George Pataki, former governor of New York. We can ask him.
Yeah, you leave a constitution.
It might be startling.
Might be. Hey, this is for you. I probably have one somewhere.
I do. It's in one of these bags. Yeah. I can give him both, U.S. and New Hampshire. I bet you he'll love Article 10.
You'd be surprised. Hey, that's interesting. How are you doing with that? So anyway, a couple minutes left.
So I wanted to mention the website for the listeners, healthcarecompact.org. It's a great website. We're also on Twitter. You can Google that. But basically, HC Compact is on Twitter. But healthcarecompact.org is our website. I encourage everyone to go check it out. We have a blog. We're constantly posting stuff, a Facebook page. And I'm going to be traveling the state. So today I'm going to a national security conference.
That's what I was talking about.
I'm going to be talking to presidential candidates about this. And then Senator Rand Paul is going to be in the North Country. Later today I'll be talking to him. So get out there, talk to people. I just looked at a WMUR poll. This is healthcare is one of the top 5 issues in New Hampshire right now that the voters are concerned about. So this is a major issue in New Hampshire. It's got education. I think the latest poll I showed was just slightly above it. So Michelle's going to be talking about education, and that's also, of course, a major issue in New Hampshire.
It is.
Indeed.
I'm going to go off on a side tangent. So you're going to that meeting that's been labeled by the Southern Poverty Law Center and the Center for American Islamic Relations as a hate group? Good job there, guy.
I saw that 5 presidential candidates are going to be there.
I hold those 2 aforementioned groups in very low disregard, by the way, because we've got some people who are going to be speaking about anti-Islamic jihad. So, of course, political correctness, we must shut you up.
Right. Right.
Not happening.
No.
No.
That conference started at 8:30 and it's running until 6 tonight.
Yeah.
It is a all-day thing, and
here we sit.
Here we sit. Yeah. Well, I have other things I have to do. You guys are welcome to go. I bet you I could get your press pass.
No, I could get in if I wanted to, but no, I've got other stuff to attend to, like
Life.
Life. Oh, thank you. That's a much better way of
It's a
putting
hobby.
it.
Nobody's paying you to go there. So.
Well, thank you, everybody, for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity. And if you want to talk about it more, I know I've been talking to one of your bloggers, Tom, about this idea.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ever want to know more about interstate compacts, there's over 200 of them right now. New Hampshire's involved in over 30. Or the healthcare compact, or if you want an update anytime, let me know.
Well, that'd be interesting to see what we've got ourselves enmeshed in.
That would be. I mean, maybe there's some good stuff in there.
Nicely put there,
Yeah,
Steve.
there's got to be something in there that's good. I mean, this is good. I like this.
There's an education one, real quick. So people in New Hampshire can go to school in Vermont if they live near the Connecticut River, and the same is true. So there's some students from Vermont that go to school in New Hampshire.
Oh, there is, yeah, and we had this discussion with the whole Croydon thing, and,
Yes.
and that all ties to that, because that's already a legitimate process. You can go spend your money in Vermont on a school, so we'll have to have Jody back on, too, talk about that. All right, we are going to come back in a few minutes to talk to Michelle Levell about Governor Hassan and some of the legislation that has come and gone in the past session, maybe some legislation that's coming back. And, of course, we still have veto override day has not arrived, and we are waiting to see. Want to push hard to get some of these bills over the hump, even though it's going to be a tight squeeze. So everybody stay tuned. This is GrokTALK. We will be right back.
This is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now, at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Three, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
GrokTALK.
All right, we are back. After having a brisk and invigorating discussion about compacts and healthcare, and before that, all kinds of stuff that's been going on in the state and the nation. But we're going to come back to education, because really all kind of starts with education, and education can be a huge problem if you don't get up and get down to the State House and get involved and help co-sponsor bills and support those bills and lobby for those bills and knock on doors and visit your legislators and other people's legislators and go, hey, hey, and,
Indeed.
And Michelle Levell has been doing a lot of that. A lot of it.
Yes, it's all about our kids. It's what kind of future are they going to have? What kind of future will our state have? And if caring about our kids' education doesn't get you up and involved, what will?
Well, it also goes to what is the proper role of government. And I think in a lot of cases, as if you read Granite Grok at all, you know exactly where I'm coming from, is that we believe that the role of government has superseded an awful lot of what is going on, what should be in not only the sphere of parents, but civil society as a whole. And we've talked about this before, where the founders' model was limited government, large and expansive civil society, where those of us individuals, consisting of families and relations, friends, neighborhoods, and what have you, we're supposed to all interact and solve our own problems. The progressives have come along, and in education, it certainly started with the industrial classroom model, the blue social model, cornerstone, of pushing out everything that's civil society, and pretty soon it will devour, as we talked about earlier, the Hobbesian Leviathan government, where there is nothing but government. And, the Democrats are fine with that. They said during their convention, government is the one thing that we all belong to. And they thought, well, we've all gone in. And I keep thinking, what, they've bought me? And that seems to be more true of the latter than it is the former. Democrats run towards government. We're trying to get away. I'm part of the just leave me alone coalition. And in education, you're pretty much trying to do the same thing.
Yes.
Who should be in charge, Michelle?
Well, obviously, I think it's the parents. It's the parents' jobs to raise their kids, to decide how to best meet the needs and goals for their kids. And unfortunately, a lot of people, including legislators and what I like to call educrats, they believe that once you drop your kids off at the school bus or at the public school doors, all of a sudden they belong to the school. And so there have been legislative efforts to kind of reassert parents' ability to direct their kids' education, even when they're in the public schools. And those have met with some opposition. Sometimes we've been successful, like in 2012, there's a parent opt-out bill that allows parents to say no to certain controversial material for their child, but then the parents are responsible for that alternative and the expense of it. A lot of parents don't even know that they have that right, that they have that option for their kids. And this last session, there was a bill, it was HB 332, that would have closed what I think of as the loophole for notification when it concerned topics or unit studies of human sexual health. This was a bill sponsored by Representative Victoria Sullivan out of Manchester, and it just would have applied a 2-week notification period for parents just to know. How can you opt out of something if you don't know it's coming? How do you know that this is something I'm concerned about for how it's going to be taught to my kids unless you're told about it?
And, of course, coming from Guilford, we saw a direct result of that went international viral.
Yes.
Of a parent, Billy Bear, who was upset that he didn't get prior notification of sexually explicit, rough teen sex, which underage, that's rape.
Yeah.
Statutory rape. And wasn't given enough notice of that. And the school board's going, not a big deal. The teachers are going, not a big deal. He was upset because that's not his morality. And the government schools are taking over that role.
Yes.
I've posted about it before. Teachers believe they own the kids.
Yes. If I remember correctly, that situation in Guilford was revolving around a 9th grade English class.
Yes.
So it's not just sex ed classes where there can be these materials or topics that parents may want just a heads up about, and they can decide what's right for their kids. Kids are mature at different rates. They've got different sensitivities. Who knows what's going on in the family dynamics at that time? So it just involves a conversation with the parents. That's all they're asking for, is to be part of the process.
But they won't. And it really comes down to this. I know Hillary Clinton has said something similar, but the classic case lately was Dr. Melissa Harris Perry. It's on my Progressives and their view of the proper role of government. We have never invested as much in public education as we should because and this is the bolder part, we've always had a private notion of children. Your kid is yours and totally your responsibility. We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. I mean, that basically says it all.
It does.
Go! Thank you.
I want to point something out really quick just because, years ago when we were all kids, in school, they didn't have any of these notifications. Why? Because they weren't giving us materials that could possibly be offensive or disturbing. That's why. Now we need them because the left has so far overtaken our school system that they are pushing this material that is inappropriate.
There were some very controversial materials. I believe it was a movie shown to elementary school kids in Manchester last year, and this is why Representative Sullivan sponsored this bill. It involved a class her own son was in, and she was just horrified when she found out after the fact that this particular movie had been shown in class. And her son was upset, other parents were upset. so the bill, it was HB 332. There was a real, genuine reason, not this solution in search of a problem. It had stuff happens in our classrooms, and parents only find out after the fact. So this was a bill that would have just given parents a 2 weeks heads up.
We actually had a... there we go. I sound weird today in this headset thing. Maybe it's my ears. They're getting bad. When I was in high school, and to Kimberly's point, we actually had a class where it was an English class where it was heavy in Shakespeare. Actual Shakespeare, not the diluted, watered down kind. So I mean, there's some mature subject matter in this, and I was a sophomore. So the teacher handed out a paper to everybody and said, "We do a lot of this. We cover a lot of Shakespeare in this class, and we want to make sure it's okay. And if it's not, we'll just move you into a different class." And that's basically what this is. You're just saying, "Look, here's some mature material.
Yep.
You may or may not be ready for it. You decide, and we'll make an adjustment."
What a novel
idea. A lot
idea.
of fingers in the air here.
Okay, who goes first?
Mike was first.
Yeah.
Mike's finger first.
So it's the flying fickle finger, and Steve is on the keyboard there. So my point is, it's not just the explicit material; it's the other stuff that they've introduced. It used to be literature and things that made you think. Now there's far more tendency for books to be actually depressing and miserable, and they wonder why teen suicide is on the rise. In my opinion, in a lot of cases, it's school-induced suicide, and they don't tell you they're teaching or asking the kids to read this stuff either. Skip.
I dryly note.
Oh, God. Go back to the pre-show for that.
That here we are in elementary and high schools that the teachers can say anything they want, and not even the parents are going to be told about it. Yet in college, it's all the rage of trigger warnings, to bring up your point.
Trigger warnings.
They can't, a professor can't even tell semi-adult kids, who I think they shouldn't be let out of the house and stuffed in their basements, if they need a trigger warning about Shakespeare or the Iliad or some of these other great works of English and Western literature. But they have to be told, oh, you may get offended. You may have a crisis and have to go to the adult kindergarten safe room. I just wonder, just another case of society being turned upside down. And can't the parents turn this upside right if given a chance?
They could, and HB 332 was one of those, and we're still trying to. I don't know if we have a chance to override that one. That one was so squashed. I'm not sure we can, but I would love to try to reintroduce that concept.
And for our listeners, that dealt with?
That was the bill that Victoria Sullivan introduced, with where it just pertained to the 2 weeks notice on sexual units for health class and stuff. It was very narrow. But if you read the governor's veto statement, she said that this bill would have prohibited the teaching of some great literature like Shakespeare. And on the Senate floor, Senator David Waters said that it could even prohibit elementary school teachers from teaching the Charlotte's Web. Really? I mean, they really grossly misunderstood the bill.
Charlotte's Web is part of sex ed now?
Well, maybe for Senator Waters.
Maybe
but,
for Senator Waters.
But
Waters.
The bill itself was very, very narrowly written, the way the language was, so that it explicitly applied to...
pig.
It was explicitly narrowed to curriculum course material used for instruction of human sexuality or human sexual education. So it would not have pertained to these really good pieces of literature. And yet, they... Oh.
You might
there
hear
you go.
better.
It's okay. I still listen to you. There you go. You sound so much better.
Thank you.
But it was as though Waters and the governor had not even read the bill.
Well, I always note
Imagine
that when it comes to a conservative type bill, the Democrats and the Socialists in the House and in the Senate, and I kid you not, I don't think there's much difference between the two anymore. But they always go and jump off the rhetorical cliff because they always go to that 1% that says something's going to go wrong and what if, and they don't worry about the vast majority of the people when it comes to their issue. Of course, they'll immediately flip-flop. There's no consistency here when they're talking about, oh, well, we're all in this together. Well, then they won't let the small percentage of us who just want to be left alone be left alone. But it really, I'm sorry, it comes back to the theme, Michelle. The parents are to be avoided. The parents are the problem. The parents get in the way of the educational elite. The parents are the stumbling blocks. They are and yet we're being told, in order for a kid to learn well, we need engaged parents. Well, then when you get them, they get castigated. I mean, there's just no sanity to this anymore.
It's like they only want parents to drop off brownies and cookies for the bake sale. That's it.
You can't do that under Michelle Obama's law.
Right. So it seems to
not anymore.
Yeah.
Kale chips.
Yeah. It seems to me that essentially it's too much trouble for the teachers to have to deal with the parents and to explain themselves. So I have to ask, if the powers of persuasion of these fine educators are so poor that they cannot persuade the parents that they are doing the right thing, how the heck can they persuade the children of the veracity of the material that they are presenting?
Because they know that the children aren't going to question an authority figure.
Young skulls full of mush.
Well, I mean, they are trained. They're beaten down. They're put into little boxes. You sit down when the bell rings. You raise your hand when you want to talk. And, yeah, it trains them to be very good, obedient little citizens.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We will be right back. Stay tuned.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
So I can bring the show back in?
No, I don't want to.
Welcome back.
I don't want to stop talking.
Grok.
Talk. So I'm talking.
Talk. Well,
a lot.
All right. Go for it.
No, it's Michelle's turn.
Okay.
Oh, my turn?
Oh,
Okay.
it's Michelle's turn.
Okay.
Please.
So, what other bills do you have to talk about?
Talk about giving parents some voice in their children's education. There was another bill, HB 603, which was going to explicitly allow parents the ability to refuse their child's participation in these statewide assessments. We've had massive opt-outs across the country this spring, which was the first time the Smarter Balance assessment was officially rolled out. I believe it was 500 kids in the Manchester School District as of late March. I haven't seen an exact figure that took us through the end of the school year for Manchester. Expect that to be massive. Half of the junior class in Nashua opted out. I mean, seriously. So, and those are just two of the bigger communities, but this happened across the state. So parents don't like these tests. Frankly, even the educators, the superintendents are saying these tests are poor. And yet, we've got the State Department of Education coming into the legislature saying that they want an alternative, but yet they still want to mandate these awful, awful tests to these children. And they're saying that these tests are the students' accountability mechanism to the state and the feds. Yet this opt-out bill did pass, but got vetoed by the governor.
That last phrase put a chill of horror through me. This is the students' accountability to the state and the federal government.
Indeed.
I'm sorry. A minor child can't sign a contract. There is no accountability to the state. There's no accountability to the federal government. This is another expression of the collective saying, we will grow you up to be one of us. Welcome to 1984 and, the pod people. What was the the show, the series of movies where they all lived in pods. The green pill and the red pill.
Oh, Matrix?
The Matrix. Yes. So, here is the machinery taking
Red
over.
And blue.
This is the socialist. You are but a mere cog in our social machine.
Yes. That's what these assessments are, and there are other programs we can deviate and talk about the other things that the State Department wants to do.
Yes, Hillary said, we need to stop worrying about the rights of the individual and start worrying about what is best for society. 1993.
That's disturbing.
We're going to have to take things away from you.
Yes.
It's incredible. I was thinking about that when you said part of that earlier, and really what they're doing is they're conflating the good of society with the need to own the citizens. The society
well put. I like that.
The society establishes the constitutions and laws in order to put reasonable constraints on behavior to prevent one person from harming another. You do not need to take possession of the children in order to do that. The children do not need to be owned by society. They need to be taught what the laws are.
Yeah. At the sake of breaking Godwin's law, we've heard this before back in the 1930s by Hermann Goebbels, that we don't worry about you. We have your children. And in essence, we are seeing that in a more quiet way, where the educational system is teaching contrary to traditional American values.
Well, let us not forget that Woodrow Wilson was himself a supreme educator, and he knew this stuff, and that FDR was a great admirer of Hitler and Mussolini until the shooting started.
Yeah, and they both despised the Constitution, which said individuals come first.
If you are comfortable with that kind of process for your kids, by all means, go along. Don't refuse your kids' participation. Just go ahead. Don't make waves. But I'm sorry. These are your kids. This truly is your parental responsibility. If this bothers you, get involved. Get off your seat. Call your legislator. Email them. Come up to provide testimony. Just show up to your school board meetings and say, so exactly why are we administering these tests? Get involved, even at the local level. Hold your reps accountable.
But they're buying them because, I can understand the need for some school lunches, but now in some districts, everybody gets a free school lunch. They get free school breakfast. They're giving suppers away. Not only that, but during vacations, you got these converted buses going around saying, here, free food for everybody, whether you qualify or not. And you see parent after parent after parent saying, well, now I don't have to spend money on my own kids.
Without realizing that their tax money's paying for that, and as usual with government, friction is wasting more than they're getting back.
I try to be... Go ahead, Kim.
Well, I was going to say, one of the problems, because I'm with you, Michelle, on parents getting involved, I think parents are afraid. You see how school boards treat people getting arrested, the cops being called.
Yep.
People see that, and they're afraid. They're not big mouths like us who will stand up to these bullies.
Yep.
They're just regular people who want to do the best for their kids, and they're sitting at home stressing out about it, but they're afraid because they don't want anything. They don't want their kids to be punished as a result,
and they have been.
They don't want to end up in jail.
Kids do get backlash because parents open up their mouths. So, for example, Manchester gave away little gift cards and other little incentives for participating in the statewide assessments. Different districts across the country have ice cream parties and other outings for the kids that participate. So the kids who don't...
Candy little girl.
Yeah, they're bribed, they're humiliated, they're singled out. There were kids who had to sit in just the classroom and just sit there and do nothing, while the other kids who took the test got to have an ice cream party. These teachers do manipulate. There were kids... here in New Hampshire, parents had refused their participation in the test, yet the superintendents and principals were bugging these middle school kids, 5th graders, 4th graders. Maybe you should talk to your parents. Maybe you should take this test. Are you sure your parents didn't want you to take this? Here, why don't you just take it today? Seriously, they're literally undermining the parental choices for their kids. These are adults. They know exactly what they're doing. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's that insidious and that manipulative.
And we should also examine the incentives or pressures that those teachers and principals are being put under to do exactly that, because I'm sure they're being managed by the numbers from the top.
They are.
That's not to make excuses for them, but
the State Department of Education, run by Dr. Virginia Berry.
We've written about her before.
Oh, yes. She's just charming.
Special.
She's special. They are told by the feds that they have to have 95% participation in order to meet the guidelines for the No Child Left Behind waivers. And it's all about the money. It's not about the kids. It's not even about the teachers that they say they're.
I have a suggestion. John Lynch redefined what a dropout was to make dropouts go away.
Right.
Why don't we redefine what taking a test means and then send those numbers to the government?
No, you know what I tell people? Tell your kids, take the test. Christmas tree it. You know what that is?
Right.
For those of you who don't understand, you take your first answer, and whatever's in the middle, you take that, and then the next one you go to the left, and the right, and the left, and the right. And at that point, when they start analyzing the statistics, this is a far better way to throw sand into the gearworks than by refusing to take the test. Tell your kids, take the test, get the ice cream, get the gift cards, get it all. But just do this on the answers.
Right.
And then let's see what happens.
Yeah, but you got to remember, the teachers aren't the ones that are correcting these exams. It's some bureaucrats, hired people that are correcting the exams that aren't even related to anybody in the school. These people are probably morons who wouldn't even get that.
No, this is all on Microsoft or other related automated type systems where everything's on the computer. The parents can't even see the exams. So neither can the teachers. So go ahead and Christmas tree it there, little ones.
What's funny is that
it would be nice if the central computer blew up afterwards, but of course it doesn't. Go ahead.
The governor, in her veto message on this bill, HB 603, said that it would not, by allowing too many kids to opt out, it inhibits the teacher's ability to see how the class is doing, how the individuals are doing. That's so much hooey, because the test results aren't even available for months later. So the test that these kids spent weeks on this spring, their final results won't be available to the beginning of the next school year. So how does that
Yeah, and teachers are writing grades and assessments every quarter for their students. They know exactly where their students are.
They do. They, in fact, do.
And the teachers have to plan what grades the kids are going to be in and what classes they qualify for during the summer. So if the results aren't going to be available, and why aren't they going to be available? It's all computerized, but you don't dare send the results back.
And it's manipulated. There's something, it's called cut scores. So they manipulate what is a passing threshold or a failing threshold, and they manipulate it. They can either make schools fail more, so they can say, see, this is so much more rigorous. Isn't this great for our children? Or they can try to have the same passing rate. Oh, you like my sarcasm.
No, I have a related thought.
Oh, I won't even go there then.
Oh, I will. It's a case of, this sounds exactly like what NOAA, the National Organization for Oceanic and Atmospheric Studies, is doing with the global warming stuff. They're adjusting, seasonally adjusting for this, that, and the other thing. And all of a sudden, what was a pause that we've been writing about for years, oh, no, there's never been a pause. It's been getting warmer, and we've always been at war with Eurasia, type of deal. I mean, if they're doing that,
they're doing
it's
the
like,
same thing.
What the heck?
So these cut scores, truly, every state manipulates their own cut score. So when they're manipulating this, and the whole reason for Common Core is supposed to make these, apples to apples across state lines and districts, and it's all a farce. So
self-grading.
It's
We're awesome.
Yeah. So, tell the teachers in Atlanta about this that got caught manipulating the grades.
I mean, frankly, teachers are afraid because these are really unproven tests. They've really not been vetted. They're currently not validated, which, by the way, is against New Hampshire state law to administer assessments that are not validated. Ta-da! But teachers are going to have 20% of their evaluation based upon these scores. Of course, they want the kids to do well. Their jobs are on the line. And that was, again, to have New Hampshire meet these No Child Left Behind waiver laws. It's all to appease our federal masters.
Oh, Christmas tree! Oh, Christmas tree!
For those of you who aren't Christians, you can just do a holiday tree,
Just draw pretty
or a
pictures.
Hanukkah bush, or whatever you want. Just do something
Pretty
crazy.
pictures.
Pretty pictures.
A study in pointillism. You can study. See?
You know,
We're all
make
nihilists
it pretty,
today.
whatever it is. Do a star.
I mean, the current crop of people who now lead our country, weren't they the ones when they were younger saying, don't trust anybody over 30? We're just passing on their message now that those people are in power.
Maybe you could do Obama, you know.
I wouldn't even go that far.
Wow, you can do lots of things. I feel bad because these parents really are. I think a lot of them are intimidated, as Kim said. They're afraid to make waves because of the backlash to their kids. Little Susie won't get, first chair flute, and you won't get to, Tommy won't be able to make the sports team that he wants. And yeah, there are these backlashes to the kids. So, I mean, I know parents want to get involved. There are ways to do it, and there are ways to still protect your kids. I mean, it comes down to them, doesn't it?
That's really why it does come down to us. Those of us who are now empty nesters, or at least your kids aren't in the school.
Can you finish the story in 20 seconds? Because
No.
we're going back
Bye.
to break. You can't. All right. Well, Michelle, thank you very much for coming in and sharing this. We'll have to have in again pretty darn soon. Coming up next, 10:35 actually expected. Governor George Pataki will be talking about running for president and all that fun stuff. So stay tuned. Don't go away. We'll be right back. This is GrokTALK, brought to you by GraniteGrok.com and the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. And we will be back in just a few minutes. Oh, wait, I got to talk for another couple seconds. Jeez, I changed things around and I have to chat. Here we go. Bye.
This is the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now, at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
GrokTALK.
3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GraniteGrok.com. We are your feared extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com.
GrokTALK.
This is GrokTALK. Go! Brought to you by GraniteGrok.com and the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers. We are on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes, and TuneIn. You can check us out on Facebook and Twitter, YouTube, Ustream, and of course at patreon.com, patreon.com/GrokTALK. Make a donation to support the program. Governor Pataki is expected at 10:35-ish. He has a call before he comes up to talk to us. I don't know if he's here yet, obviously, because I'm in the studio and they're outside someplace, but we are expecting them to arrive shortly. In the meantime, gentlemen, I open the floor to you. Talk about what we just talked about. Anything else you want to squeeze in before he arrives? Well, wait. Hey, let's start over. Go.
So, along with all this dumbing down of the education system and charging us more and more for it, we now have, of course, and I was trying to find the cartoon/poster of it, our vice president saying, that we need 4 years of free community college in order for the kids to be properly prepared. Heck, they used to be able to leave high school at 16 and be able to go out and get a darn good career. And at 18 and be ready for university. Now, they're not ready for life unless we give them 4 more years paid for by the taxpayer, because guess what? The 10 years or so, 12 years they did already,
13.
didn't teach them anything.
13, maybe 14 if they do pre-K.
Well, what we found is that 40% of all high school students going on to higher education must take remedial classes, which basically says the high schools suck, period.
Well, I can tell you, I mean, I don't know if your kids ever had to take everyday math, but my kids had to take everyday math, and then they would get into middle school, and they would have to do real math. And, of course, having absolutely no foundation upon which to do real math when they got to high school, they're already behind. So they go all through high school. With this handicap they were given because the district said, oh, we got to do everyday math. And now, of course, everyday math was horrible. And, and then they get into, Jake's good at math. Zach, they're both pretty smart, but, they ended up taking a couple of days in the summer, kind of a refresher for math, to really get them back to speed up on what real math's going to be like in college. And that's not unusual. It really isn't.
My experience with my kids is that my youngest was having a lot of problem. And in first grade, at the end of the first grade in public school, we were told he will never learn to read, period. We immediately said, no, we're not going to do this. We transferred him and his brother into a small Christian school. Mm-hmm. And the teacher that happened to be at our church took him under her wing. And by the end of the second grade, he was reading above a third grade level. So it wasn't a case where, as the public school system said, he can't learn to read. It's just they weren't very good at it. Now, the teacher was decent. My eldest had the teacher, same teacher, and he did very, very well. But I do know that after the 3 years that they were there at the private school, then they went back to the public schools. They were bored for 2 years. They had already covered all this stuff. I wrote earlier this week, it's like me going to Boston University and some of my high school buddies that had gone to UMass Amherst in organic chemistry, which is if you're pre-med or going into biology or chemistry, you have to take this class. A lot of engineering students had to take this class. And at BU, it was a weed-out class. Its whole purpose was to go so fast to weed out those people who were either incapable or not determined enough to make it through. Now, I ended up with a B. I was damn glad to get that. You had to work hard, and I'm not the brightest bulb in the box, but I'm far from being the dimmest either. And I couldn't believe it that after the first semester we did 16 chapters, UMass had only done 8. And I'm going, oh my God, I could have gotten a 4.0 out of this if I had been able to go at that pace. So,
well, if you have a little desire and even a modicum of intellectual agility, you can determine yourself right through just about anything if you really want to. So, and that's what my kids have intellectual agility. What they lacked was a good, I couldn't afford to send them to private school. I would have loved that. But, it is a dumbing down situation, and it's getting worse. And Common Core, of course, is the dumbest of them yet. And, now it's all, a train's going this way at 45 miles an hour and a car's going this way at 75 miles an hour. How do you feel about gay marriage? It really has absolutely nothing to do with, and that's math. That's math, okay?
Well, the social justice warriors have to interject all of that stuff into every little piece of the curriculum. And that goes to what this is going about. And then they wonder why people are saying, we're going to homeschool our kids. Because they're tired of the indoctrination. And I don't care what the educational system says. You read the books, you see I see this all over the internet all the time with this kind of crap all over. That's not what our schools were when we were in school, Steve and Mike.
No.
They taught us reading, writing, and arithmetic. They got to the basics. They taught the subjects. As I've been saying for years, I'm going to be employed forever for as long as I want to work because these nitwits coming out of school can't make... I still run into people where you do that old joke at the convenience store. They see the bills that you hold out. They ring it up. They expect the cash register to tell them how much change to go. And at the last moment, you go, "Oh, let me give this to you instead." And you see them going trying to make the change.
It's a bountiful situation for quick change artists. That's what it is. So, we used to have one who
artists.
They exist. We used to have one that came into the Papagenos in South Nashua at least once a month, and I knew who he was, and he would come and order something, and then he would start trying to switch the bills around, and I'd just walk up and go, "Hey, how you doing?" And he would just hand me the bill, and I would give him his change, and he would leave. We had an understanding, and my managers knew who he was. So, you just have to let people, there's people like that. They try to confuse you to make a couple bucks when you screw the change up.
Oh,
and that was 20 years ago.
I never
10, 15
I
years
never
ago.
wanted to cheat somebody, any of the cashiers. I just wanted to see the look of utter blankness on their face.
Or if you try and give them, let's say, I don't know, the bills, or the amount's $16 and something, and you give them 21 and change, and they're totally dumbfounded that what you're looking for is to get a $5 bill back instead of a handful of garbage.
Yeah, and it's just one of those deals that I do worry about this country, because some of the foundational characteristics that we were told that we had to have was a moral people, and I don't see morality. Morality comes from the inside. The progressives believe they can impose it upon you through the use of external laws. It depends on an informed government, and we see so many people, Mike, that have no idea what's going on in the world for politics and what's going on. It depends on an educated set of folks, and we just get worse and worse.
They expect, and it may be just the size of society, they expect that the society has an inertia, has a set of rules, and it's just going to keep on going, and they don't think they have to pay attention. And the problem is, as has been said enough times, you may not be interested in politics, but be assured that politics is interested in you. You've got to pay attention.
I wonder if we're getting to the point where in the commercial realm, if you have a company that's been very, very successful, is very profitable, has been growing, then it gets sold. At what point did America really still, the analogy holds to America? And then once it's sold, the new owners say, we're going to basically steal it blind. We're going to pull all the capital out. We're not going to reinvest and everything else like that. And I think in the beginning, from the middle part of the 80s onward, especially in the 90s, that the ball started rolling down, those same capitalists that were taking money out of the company, at some point you end up with just a husk of a company, and there's nothing there. Are we starting to see that with America? Because we get people like you and other folks who come and want to be Americans, not just to be here and work here like illegal aliens, but people who that want to participate, and they left something because they knew it was wrong, and then they come here and now they're seeing it, this country that they thought was a beacon of light, now starting to become what they left, and you go, what the heck?
Yeah, well, it's getting bad when we start to think, maybe we could figure out how to live in the UK again. Because
seriously?
Mama actually said that a couple of days ago, and it's partly because older relatives are getting sick and dropping. So it's not just it's not just hey, we're sick of this place, but you're beginning to think, this place ain't so much better anymore. It's part of
ask her about Londonistan.
Well, exactly. It's part of why we fight, Skip. We fight to prevent it from going that way, from being the worst of British socialism before Margaret Thatcher, or the worst of multiculturalism as it's become today. And if you end up with the confluence or the convergence of the two, you end up truly screwed. And by the way, that's where we are going. Multiculturalism plus socialism equals a totally immoral and bankrupt society.
Yeah, I look at this and go, there have been some good things happening for conservatism over the last couple of years, even given the Obama administration. And I think that I put up, or do I have it just bookmarked? There's been a couple of polls that have just come out where all of a sudden
Hi, Kimberly. Sorry.
Thanks a lot. I've been muted this whole time. I was trying to talk.
I'm sorry. He left the board and I wasn't looking at it, Kimberly.
I'm totally sorry.
I am me on Facebook. Do you realize I'm still on the phone?
I feel oppressed.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Here you go.
Wait a minute. Turn her back on. Go ahead, Kimberly.
I was impressing. Sorry. By the way, the governor is around the corner, stuck in traffic. If he doesn't make it in time, we'll reschedule. But they're almost here.
Well, can't we go into extra time here?
We could. Yes. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you were just talking about, because I already lost my other thought because they come and go,
I understand.
I was going to say, you're talking about good things have happened to conservatism thanks to Obama. You're right, because guess what? It's because of Obama that I'm even involved in politics, and I think I'm a good thing. But that's
so do we.
That's exactly true, because I think because Obama is so extreme and because Democrats have become so extreme, they don't hide anymore, except for the ones in New Hampshire. They try to pretend like they're moderate, like Patton. But because they're so extreme...
We have guests.
Oh.
Governor, if you could
Governor,
first
first seat, please, and then... All right.
Yeah,
Thanks, Camilla. Hang on. We're just going to... You can keep talking while we set everybody up. They got stuck in traffic in Concord on Main Street. Imagine that.
Especially after they've made it more pedestrian-friendly. The traffic just doesn't work.
It's better than it was, and now it doesn't work right. So there we go.
What I was saying is that more people, I think, have become aware now than there were before. And you're seeing completely... I know a lot of people who were not involved in politics before who have become involved in politics, and they're not just involved in politics, they're actually... as far as watching and stuff, they're actually activists. So, yeah, Obama did a lot for the conservative movement, in my opinion.
Well, and I think that's at least part of why so many candidates are getting into the presidential race, and we've now been joined by Governor George Pataki. So, listen, we're also up against a break. Do you want to go into an extra time
We'll take the break real quick, and then we'll go. We'll run the segment as long as you guys can
Absolutely.
stick around.
Happy to be here.
All right, hang on a minute. We will take our break, and we will be right back.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is the repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now, at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
All right, there we go. We are back. Rock Talk brought to you by CNHT, the bloggers at GraniteRock.com. Check us out on iHeart, Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Ustream. I'll get that all out of the way because we want to talk to the governor.
The small version, the large version.
The small version, the large version, yes. So, sorry you got stuck in Concord traffic. You can get used to that.
Hey, it made me feel at home in New York, except the only difference is we didn't have any protesters. I'm used to having protesters in here.
We can arrange
I'm
those
sure
two.
you could set that up for me.
We can make a call. Okay, and I got Kimberly on the line, too. All right, so let's get to it. You are running for president?
There weren't enough candidates. I figured, what the heck. No, to be perfectly honest, never in my life have I seen a more dramatic need to change the direction and the nature of our government in Washington. It's not about managing. It's not about tinkering around the edges. It's about fundamentally changing and having sweeping reform. And I know I can do that. New York was in the same position when I ran for governor. I left it a completely different state. Sadly, it's regressed back to where it was before I took office. But I know I can change Washington. I know I can win this race if I get the nomination.
So Washington is pretty screwed up. One of the things, of course, obviously debt is a problem. Part of the debt problem is the bureaucracy problem. We
Absolutely.
have all these czars. We have what's your approach to
we have
that?
a government that's totally out of control in Washington. We have to dramatically reduce the size, the cost, the power, the intrusiveness. Just a few things. I would reduce the size of the federal government workforce by at least 15%. And people are going to say, well, how are you going to do that? When I left governor of New York, we had reduced the size of the state workforce by over 15%. I know I can do that. We have to break the stranglehold that the lobbyists and the special interests have on politics in Washington and give government back to the people. One of the things I do to do that is first of all, you serve one day in Congress, House or Senate. There's a lifetime ban on your ever being a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. Today there are over 400 former members of the House and Senate lobbying, peddling influence, representing the interest groups and not the people who sent them to Washington.
We have a few of those here.
Another thing I do is, they pass a law like Obamacare, ram it down our throats, say it's good for the American people. But they exempt themselves. Congress passes a law that applies to the American people. It has got to apply to every single member of Congress and their staffs as well. Reduce the size of the government, take away the special privileges and power of Congress and their staffs, give power back to the states and the people.
Okay, just to let you know, Governor, because I didn't get to it before, we are recording this, and we're also live streaming it out through our listenership through
So
Granite
I should probably
Rock.
try to sit up straighter. Is that what you're telling me?
No,
here,
no,
Skip?
just
all right,
sometimes I forget to tell
Just-
people.
Wait, I'll suck in my stomach, sit up straight,
Just be
smile.
comfortable. But
We have
are
surveillance
recording.
laws in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Nothing like warning me after the show's over. That's
You hit upon-
You sure you aren't a liberal here? With a trick like that?
You've hit upon one of my favorite hobby horses, which is the rise of the administrative state,
Absolutely.
which is the end state of progressivism, otherwise known as just plain socialism. And in your own state, we have the New York Wage Labor Board, which just announced that only for one single industry, the fast food industry, they are now mandating a $15 an hour law,
Utterly
which was pushed by
absurd.
the SEIU, the
I
most socialist union ever.
Utterly absurd. And it's not for the fast food industry. It's only for fast food industry defined as franchisors with more than 30. So you can have a Dunkin' Donuts in Concord, New Hampshire, next to a Joe's Coffee Shop. And at Dunkin' Donuts, they're making $15. At Joe's, they're making $9. And state workers are making $8. This is stupid. It is typical of the inanity of the liberal policy. And you know what it's all about? And I don't mean to go on a rant here, but
we do it all the time.
What the left does is pass things not so that they're going to improve the lives of the working poor or low-income Americans, but so they can pat themselves on the back and say, look how compassionate I am, look how caring I am. But they don't look at the economic consequences in the real world of what they do. And that's why when I took office in New York, after 20 years of liberal big government, 1 in 11 of every man, woman, and child in the state of New York was on welfare when I took office. Think about that. They had so much compassion for the poor, they created more of them than any other state had. And what we do is we have so little care for the poor that we get them jobs, give them opportunity, allow them to live the American dream so there are fewer of them. That's why we have to win this election. One of many reasons.
One quick question. With this wage board, did that exist when you were governor?
It existed. It didn't do anything like this. I guarantee you. We could have never conceived of doing something like this.
What purpose did it originally have, I guess, is the question.
What's that?
What purpose did it originally have?
To be honest, when this was going through, my former chief of staff is now my business partner in the private sector. And I go, what is this about? Where did this go? Was that there? And I was a hands-on governor. I didn't even know that existed, to be perfectly honest.
And this is part of the problem, and we're asking everybody who comes through here. The administrative state has become so large that we're seeing at the federal level so many unelectable, unaccountable, and now protected bureaucrats making what used to be congressional law and acting under the aegis of the president. My question to you is...
Wait, can I interrupt? Forgive me. It's worse than making what Congress used to do. They're imposing regulations in areas that never impacted people before, that Congress wouldn't do. So it's far beyond what Congress would do. But forgive me here.
And that goes to my point, because I think that's one of the significant things about this election that is being underreported because of the intrusiveness. It used to be limited government, large and expansive civil society, and then the individuals. And we see progressives have been pushed this further and further. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't see a heck of a lot of Republican pushback on this. And I'll say, you had the chance to kill off this board, and you didn't.
Well, I didn't know. I got rid of a lot of agencies, but Skip, I reduced the size of the workforce by over 25,000 workers, over 15%, while increasing the state police and everything involved in public safety. I reduced the number of agencies and authorities, and I created an office to go through regulations, and we repealed or reformed over 3,000 different regulations. And by the way, those bureaucrats in New York, they could not enact one regulation without going through my budget office. We stopped them.
Okay. How would you handle the federal government? Squeezing down the population of federal employees is one thing. But how do you get them out of creating all these new regulations
you don't let
for
them.
us?
You do what I did. and you pass, and I did it by executive order. And by the way, we're going to suspend all Obama. We're going to repeal all Obama's.
The Dan Pfeiffer executive
We're going
one.
to get rid of all his executive orders.
And you know what I mean by that?
No, I don't know what you mean by
Dan
that.
Pfeiffer, Obama's political assistant, said, we basically erased George W. Bush by issuing executive order after executive order after executive order, so nothing he did would ever be there, and replaced it. I'm looking for a presidential candidate that on day one signs that and says all regulations.
Day one.
Okay,
Day one.
there you go. There's a promise.
We are going to eliminate every one of Obama's executive orders. What we are going to do is create a group that's going to take a look and go through his executive orders, and we're going to do three things. I assume a great many of them were just going to be gone. They're repealed. Some of them that are appropriate and can be done through executive authority, we will reenact. Those that are appropriate but should have been enacted by the rule of law through Congress, we will send to Congress and urge them to enact. Period.
Okay.
That's simple.
Second half of that, though.
Right.
We've seen these massive laws coming through, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 pages.
Mm-hmm.
Would you promise to say, I will veto any bill, regardless of what it is, unless it's in a national emergency, and we're looking at Iran, North Korea, China, and all that kind of deal. I will veto any bill larger than 10 pages. And Congress, you had better finally start and stand up and actually say exactly to the tiniest detail, no more, the Secretary shall, and make us allow us to do it. You tell us what to do to faithfully execute those laws. Are you willing to diminish the power of the presidency to put Congress back where it should be?
There are 3 or 4 questions. Will I guarantee I'll veto anything longer than 10 pages? No. and I'm going to give you the answer you don't want to hear, because if I want to be I want to be the president of the United States, and if it takes 11 pages to do it in an intelligible way that the public can understand, then I'm not going to veto that bill. Will I continue to support executive power being taken from Congress? No. We will give that power back to Congress, but most importantly, we will give power back to the people and the states. And we are going to, I will have an executive order, as I did as governor, saying that these agencies, these authorities, these czars, to the extent we don't eliminate them, cannot issue regulations without going through our board that will do a cost-benefit analysis and have to sign off on whether or not that is in the public interest and whether or not it's within the authority of the executive branch.
Okay.
That's fair enough, Mayor.
Yes.
So in terms of eliminating agencies, you can strangle them pretty well with executive orders, but the next president could undo that, as has been observed. Ideally, what you want is to encourage Congress to enact a law repealing the very existence of the agency.
That's
because, as Ronald Reagan said, and as the Republicans in Congress are demonstrating this week, the nearest thing to eternal life is a government program. Right. Welcome to The Walking Dead. The Ex-Im Bank is back.
Well, it's not back yet, and as of June 30th, it's gone.
Yeah, but now they're trying to do an end round where not Harry Reid, but Mitch McConnell had promised a lot of people. There was the Ted Cruz calling out of McConnell as a liar on the floor of the Senate, saying, you promised me and 54 other senators you would not bring this up for a vote, and now look at what you're doing. I mean, and we write and believe from a NHGOP platform perspective, the U.S. Constitution, and especially the New Hampshire Constitution. And I'm tired, and there's a big group of people who are now supporting one of your rivals, Donald Trump, because they are so upset with the Republican Party for saying one thing and then doing another.
I totally understand.
And we go after people who refuse to do that. But how do you get such a bloated administration and a lackluster Congress to say, not only will we stop trying to subvert the black and white of the law, but we will live within the spirit of the law as seen by our founders. And I think that's a lot of our problem, that we've just totally abandoned that.
I completely agree with that. And I can't tell you how every member of Congress is going to conclude in their hearts that they should live by those tenets, but with the right leadership, you can completely change not just the letter of the law, but the culture of government. It takes time, and what you're saying, though, I think is extremely important, because people run saying they're going to do one thing, and then they do if they don't do the exact opposite, they don't do what they say they were going to do. And I'm proud of my record as governor because I ran saying we were going to have the death penalty and reduce violent crime, and we went from the most dangerous state in America, which people can't believe today, to the fourth safest state in America. I said we were going to replace
I think New Hampshire's a little bit ahead of you on that.
Just a little.
New Hampshire, Iowa, and Utah. Those are the only ones. New York was fourth, although we're going to backslide with the liberals running things now, leftists running things now. But then I said we were going to replace welfare with opportunity and require the able-bodied to work. When I left, we had over 1 million fewer people on welfare than when I took office. No state in America has been transformed like that. And I said we were going to cut taxes. We were going to cut taxes across the board. When I left, we had cut taxes by $143 billion with a B dollars, more than the other 49 states combined, and taken $5 billion in deficits and turned it into $4 billion in surplus. I ran on those three things: tough on crime, replace welfare with opportunity, taxes across the board. I did those in the bluest state with a state legislature, a state assembly that had 103 Democrats and 47 Republicans. I tell you, I'm going to do something in Washington, I will do it.
All right, we're going to take a really short break. We're going to come back and do another 15 minutes if you guys are all set with that. And stay tuned. This is GrokTALK. We'll be right back.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now at the top of our list is voter fraud. You have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
All right, the governor cannot stick around. He's got a lunch, or you've got things to do. You're running for president. So we're going to continue this conversation another time, but we wanted to give you a chance to say goodbye, let people know how to get in contact with you.
Yeah, I'll tell you, thanks for fighting the fight. Thanks for having me on. I'm sorry we couldn't get into national security. I went off on a rant about the Iranian deal the other day, and another rant about how our Marines can't wear their uniforms, recruiting. This is not just an insult, it is an embarrassment to our country. They should put on their uniforms and put on their guns at the same time. I wish we could get into security. You can get a hold of me, Alicia.
We know her well.
The website, Twitter feed, GeorgePataki.com, and at Governor Pataki.
All right.
Well, we've got lots more questions if you can make it.
I've got a lot more answers.
That sounds like a better deal.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Keep fighting the fight. Good to be with you.
All right. Thanks for coming in.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right. Well, okay. We're not going to run long. Thank you, sir. Have a good afternoon. Enjoy your campaigning. It is New Hampshire.
Bye.
We are GrokTALK. We are finishing things up, and I'm going to let the music play and the ads run, and we'll see you next week from someplace.
Yeah, baby!
When asked whether she still supports Obamacare, Senator Jeanne Shaheen said,
"Yes, I do continue to support the law. We're beginning to see some positive results."
How can Senator Shaheen say we're seeing positive results when 22,000 of our neighbors have already lost their health insurance? What's worse, the Boston Globe reports the state's only health insurance provider radically reduced the number of hospitals in their network, forcing some people to drive over an hour for lab work, even when there's a hospital within a few miles of their home. When pressed about lack of access, Shaheen said,
"There are some hospitals that are not covered, unfortunately, and I certainly hope that's going to change."
Jeanne Shaheen promised us we could keep our doctors and our healthcare coverage. Now she hopes we can get to a local hospital? Call Senator Shaheen at 603-647-7500. Tell her we need more than hope. We need leadership. Paid for by Citizens for a Strong New Hampshire.
Senator Jeanne Shaheen said, "If you like your current health plan, you can keep it." That's not true, Senator. 22,000 New Hampshire citizens have been kicked off their insurance plans. Hospitals in Rochester, Concord, and Portsmouth, they aren't allowed to provide care under the exchange. Senator, you were wrong in your comments. You should apologize for your misleading remarks. I'm calling Senator Shaheen at 750-3004 and telling her I want my doctor back. You should too.
Paid for by SaberPac.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
All of the music on this program comes to us through Creative Commons licensing from Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. The opinions expressed on this program are those of the speakers, not necessarily those of CNHT, GraniteRock.com, or anyone else for that matter.
GrokTALK.